What is up, everybody? It is Og here, back with another video. In today's video, we're going to be jumping into slave pens as a paladin and doing a solo one pull. Not mage, not warlock, not hunter, paladin SP one pull. This is not an easy pull, I'm not going to lie to you guys. It is going to take some practice, but after about 4 practice runs and theory crafting in my head on stream while I did some dungeons at twitch.tv/Arleus, we were able to pull it off. We can get, if you go effectively and efficiently through this, you can get between 200 to 300,000 experience per hour, depending on your level. I'm level 66 when I did this because I've already done a lot of dungeons to try to get up my rep, but I believe you could do this as low as 62 with the proper amount of practice. As I said before, it is going to be difficult, but with practice, you guys could definitely pull off this pull as well and get some really good experience and decent gold. I'm going to be going over the talents, consumes, enchants, all that kind of jazz right off the bat, and then from there, we're going to be jumping into the pool itself and running through the pool and how we actually do the pool. Let's get started. So start off first, we have the gear. As I said before, I am level 66, but this is pretty much the gear that I've had since Classic. I haven't really replaced much. That being said, you can get a lot of stuff off the auction house. The goal here is to maximize spirit and spell power. So if you want off the auction house, you can just pick up sets like the Invoker and items like that, and you'll be able to get a decent amount of spell power. I'm running with 447 spell power when I have Great Arcane Elixir popped, which is a pretty good amount of spell power, but it's not going to make a massive difference if you have, 250 or 300 or something like that. For the talents, we have a ret prot build. Now we go down the ret tree to try to get improved Sanctity Aura, try to get Crusade, Pursuit of Justice. We're trying to increase our damage that we're doing with Consecrate. All of our damage is going to come from Consecrate. We're not going to be tanking anything really too much though, so we don't need to focus too heavily on the prot build, but I do run down through the prot build, try to get Reckoning just in case we need to get some mana back and things like that, try to get defense levels so we do have a lower chance of getting dazed, and we can run through and be a little bit more tanky while we're doing the runs. The important things though in the prot tree are Guardian's Favor, which reduces the cooldown of Bot by 120 seconds, and Sacred Duty reduces Divine Shield by 60 seconds. Those two are really huge for the run itself, just because that means we're able to go through bigger damage burst phase more frequently. So this is the talents. I'll have them linked down below. Obviously, this is as level 66, and so at a lower level, we're not going to be able to have all these talents. So I would first sacrifice Holy Shield and One Hand Specialization, and so this would be the level 62 talents right here. We also take 1 point out of toughness. So after 62, fell out One Hand Specialization, 1 into Holy Shield, and then I go 1 more into toughness for 66. Moving on to consumables, you're going to need major mana potions. I know my bag's crazy, we just got out of the run. So you're going to need major mana potions. You're going to need swiftness potions. Swiftness potions are going to be key here. You're going to be burning 2 per run. I'd recommend bringing major healing potions just as, an oh crap kind of moment if you're completely and need them. Blackened Basilisk. This is going to give you 23 spell damage, 20 spirit. It's going to be really useful for the run. Elixir of Dranic Wisdom, 30 spirit, 30 int, and then Great Arcane Elixir. The idea here, guys, is we're going to need to regen a lot of mana. Mana with spirit, the way that it works in TBC, it's giving you a lot more MP5. It's about 60% of the MP or of the spirit that you have as MP5, and then obviously we have the MP5 while casting. And we're going to be able to, regen mana a lot easier if we have a lot more spirit on. So I recommend that food, those consumables, and those should help you out a lot with the run itself. All right, so we're going to come into the instance, guys. If you didn't know what Slave Pens is, it is in the Coilfang Reservoir in Zangarmarsh, so recommend just looking it up if you need to figure out where it is, but it's right there. Get started right away, though. As soon as you get in the instance, you want to get runnings to do any kind of enchant or any kind of consumables, drinking, etc. outside the instance, because when you get in, you want to start the run immediately so the pats aren't in a bad spot. We're going to drop a Consecrate at the end of the pathway there. Basically, the Bog Strokes make these big U's, and so we're dropping Consecrates in positions where the Bog Strokes are going to pat through, so we'll aggro them with the Consecrate damage on the ground. So here you can see the Bog Strokes run through there and aggro. Now we're going to run behind the right of these pens. You could potentially aggro the Slave Handler there. You probably won't aggro them, though. If you do, make sure you're spamming Despelling yourself, because these workers actually the slaves here actually cast Frostbolt on you, which could be an issue, but just spam Despell yourself and you should be fine. Strafe up this pathway here on the left side, and what's going to happen is that this champion will follow you up, and then you'll be able to jump down from here, and then the champion will have to run back down. So it'll give you a little bit of room from the mobs, just so you don't have them right on your tail as you're running through this area. We're now going to hug the outside. You could see the pat that we would have potentially run into, but fortunately, because we started the instance right away, the pats should not ever be in a bad spot. If they are, there's a potential for a scuff run, but they shouldn't be in a bad spot. run into this bog shock, and then make sure that they're hitting you from the front. I did get hit twice from behind there. Make sure that they hit you from the front, so strafe through those mobs so you don't get dazed. Pop Swiftness Potion, and then we're going to run over and aggro the other bog shock pack, making sure that we've aggroed all these mobs. We're going to run into this corridor, and you want to get into this corridor with 3 seconds left on Swiftness Potion. Now, the reason why you want 3 seconds left is because these guys have a large leeway, kind of like Torrents that can hit you from a far distance, and so you want to make sure you get into this area as quickly as possible. We're then going to jump up onto this ledge. So Blizzard changed the pathing of all these ledges, basically, but about right here onwards, you can still jump up on this ledge and walk on this ledge. So from right here onwards, if you jump up, you should be able to jump up and then jump up a second time and get up on the ledge. You can't do this on the side though, so it's only in this front section right here. So we jump up and then hug the far left. I didn't hug the far left quick enough, and so what happened is that these guys kind of tilted in instead of going out and actually started hitting me. So make sure you hug the far left, put Bop on yourself, and then heal yourself up if you need to. Preferably, you wouldn't have to use Bop, and there's plenty of times where I don't have to, but don't, run the risk of dying. If you need to use Bop, use Bop. What's happening now is that these mobs will pat under Menu's ramp and then go around the perimeter. So they'll actually go under the ramp and not aggro Menu, even though they're right next to Menu. They'll run around this ramp, and then when you jump back down, these mobs will come down. You can see, though, we can't run any further to the left, but we can run around to the right side. And so here what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to let the mobs hit me a little bit. The idea here is that if the front mobs are hitting me and I'm just kind of holding them in place, then that gives the other mobs a chance to kind of catch up to the front mobs. So you can wait there for quite a bit if you wanted to, just because the mobs aren't going to do too much damage for a little bit while you have the first just few mobs, and let them stack up. But I didn't wait too long, and then we're going to go and aggro more packs. And so what you can do there is you can actually just use a grenade on the back mobs. If you aren't an engineer, you can use Easy Throw Dynamite, but just to play conservatively, I aggro just the front group the first time, and then the second time I'll aggro this other group. So we aggro those mobs, jump right back up onto the pathway, and now we have more mobs that are running around in the circle. Now we're going to run and go get this corner group over here. As you can see, there's a chest there, guys. The chest is sometimes locked, sometimes not. If it is not locked, obviously you can open it, and it is always going to have 5 gold, a green, and typically major healing potions. So chests are awesome. They're very plentiful in here, so it's an extra added benefit. Here you can see this technician casting Rain of Fire. So here's the risk with the mobs inside the room. If you don't want to pull the mobs inside the room itself, you don't have to, and you could just kill the mobs that we aggroed in the start, and there will only be 2 technicians in your pool. If you want to get all the mobs in this room, though, you're going to be pulling technicians and then the smaller kind of mobs. The smaller kind of mobs are going to cast Cripple on you, which is going to slow you. You can dispel it, so it's not a big deal. The technicians, however, are going to do Rain of Fire, which could become a pain just to kind of walk out of. Not a big deal at the end of the day, but you can see there, this technician did cast Rain of Fire. The bigger problem that this presents is that that mob is now not pathing, and so it's going to become a pain in the actual kill phase, because if a mob's casting an ability, he's not going to run back into the appropriate spot, so we're going to need to use Hammer of Justice and things like that to try to put them in the right place. But now you can see we aggro that last group. I do not get the corner group, so there's one more corner group on the far corner, way past Menu and everything like that. I don't get them because I would need to burn Bubble and Swiftness Potion, and it would add, a few minutes to the run. You can aggro them if you want, but it's just some extra technicians and Coilfang collaborators that you have to worry about. But we now have all the mobs aggroed, and so you can see that the stack is absolutely horrible. We have some mobs that are literally hitting us when we're on the ground. We have mobs that are about to hit us if we jump up on the top, and so we need to stack them up. So what we're going to do is we're going to run out of this main room, and we're going to hug the right. The idea here is that the room that we ran through earlier to aggro up all the bog shocks is a big circle, and there's some pillars and there's some objects that basically force the mobs to run around them. And so we're able to kind of kite the mobs that are close to us around the outside, and then kite them into a big circle. If you have Swiftness Potions, which stands as Swiftness Potions, you can definitely use. It's only about a 5% speed increase from Pursuit of Justice, but you could use it if you want to. You can just kite around the outside and group them up pretty easily in a circle. Here, I kite them, and then I work my way back towards the middle as quickly as possible. Now this middle section here, basically if you run back and forth from this, the mobs kind of pat out and back, but the mobs here were able to fit their way in through the middle, so I wasn't able to make it work this time. And so you can try to pat back and forth like that and see and figure it out. But the idea here is just try to make a big circle. That allows the back mobs enough time to get all the way through the hallway and catch up to you. So now if we bubble in the middle here, you saw how separated those mobs were, so this is about as separated as they can get. They're still all able to get back into this, one section while we're standing here in a bubble. Now, I'm going to throw a throwing grenade. If you don't have throwing grenade, that's fine. You don't need it for these runs. It is helpful for these runs, but you do not need to be an engineer. And then I'm going to pop Swiftness Potion. If you don't have it, just pop Swiftness Potion. Now our goal is to sprint back to the side as quickly as possible and hug the left as quickly as we can, hopefully taking as little damage as possible from these mobs as they run through this area. It is likely that you are going to take some damage though, and I do definitely take some damage here as you're about to see, because some of the mobs are going to cut to the inside and then they're going to try to cut across the menu as quickly as possible. So you want to spam heal yourself and try to keep yourself up. Probably put on Concentration Aura so you're not getting interrupted here. You can see that I get interrupted a fair bit, so try to put on Concentration Aura instead, which should help you keep yourself up. But you can spam heal through those mobs and then we should hopefully be good. At this point, the mobs are pretty stacked. Obviously, the Technician is still being a pain. That's the problem with the Technicians. If you don't want to have the Technicians, you don't have to have them. You will get less experience, but you wouldn't have to deal with them as far as Rain of Fire goes. But we now have a decent stack of the mobs. So we can see them come around the side. They are pretty stacked up here. And so we now can think about the actual kill phase itself. And so for the kill phase itself, we're going to be using Consecrate. Unfortunately, because there isn't as much room, we can't kite them very far like we kind of do in ZF. So as a Paladin in ZF, we can let them run through Consecrate a decent bit and we can keep them going through Consecrate constantly, pretty much. But here we can't do that. And so what we have to do is we have to jump up on the ledge. We're going to run to the far corner as far as we can. We're going to drop Consecrate as they come around the side. And then we're going to run back around the side, letting them kind of, take as much damage in the Consecrate as possible. Every 3 minutes for Bop and every 4 minutes for Divine Shield, we'll also be able to go through a burst phase. And so the burst phase can be used for two things. This is the burst phase. We can use it to, one, stack the mobs, which is going to be nice. And two, we can use it to pump out some extra damage. So when we use Bop, we're still going to get Rain of Fire. So we're still going to get the collaborators casting Cripple on us. But we're able to drop down a Consecrate and stand in it. You don't need to worry too much about the Rain of Fire damage unless there's two that are dropped on you, then you want to step out of it. But here what we do is we step back, we drop another Consecrate, and then I'm going to jump down. You can see here we got down to 14%. That was a sloppy one. The rest aren't going to be that sloppy. You get better as time goes on. But the idea there, guys, is that we're able to let the mobs kind of stack up on themselves and pump out a good bit of damage there. So we're able to get off 2 Consecrates, about 1.5 ticked on them, but we're able to pump out some decent damage. At this point, though, we do have this Technician kind of in a horrible spot. I recommend if the Technician's in a bad spot like this, just hodge them and then wait for them to get back with the rest of the group. And so here, he casts Rain of Fire again, unfortunately. I don't execute that well. I was thinking he wasn't going to cast Rain of Fire, so I let him just kind of stand there. But you want to hodge him around the side as you drop the Consecrate, and then you want to let him kind of pat back in with the rest of the mobs. Unfortunately, we didn't do that, and so he got off the Rain of Fire, but we'll eventually get him stacked back up. Jumping back up again, guys. This is what we're going to do over and over and over. We're going to drop the Consecrates, run around the side. It's going to get a lot cleaner as you go on. But you can see here, we're trying to hug the back, trying to let all the mobs run through the Consecrate, and then jump down. So from here, guys, I'm going to speed up the run itself so you guys can see it in just a quicker fashion so you're not sitting there. The run actually does take about 12 minutes for the kill phase itself. So I want to speed through that so you guys can kind of see. You can see a burst phase right there. We pop bubble. We're able to get out a good amount of damage. If you don't have throw grenades, you can 100% use easy throw dynamites, and you actually just don't even need them during the burst phases. It's just some added damage if you want to throw out some added damage. The biggest thing here, guys, is that we want to make sure that we're constantly hitting the mobs so we don't have their experience reset. A lot of you are familiar with this from ZF, but if you didn't do ZF before and you aren't familiar with it, basically if you don't hit a mob and you're solo in a dungeon and you don't hit a mob for a long time, what ends up happening is that their experience resets. So it's somewhere between 20 and 30 seconds, but then their experience is going to reset, and instead of giving full experience, they're going to give a percentage of their experience based on their current health. So for example, let's just say that we're hitting a mob and we have the mob down to 50%, and then we don't hit the mob for 30 seconds. If we re-engage that mob and we kill that mob and we're solo in a dungeon, we are now only going to get 50% of the normal experience. And so in the actual kill phase itself, or once it's all done, you're going to start seeing some experience numbers come across. Some are going to be, pretty high, and some are going to be a little bit lower. And that's going to be because some of the times we lost experience itself. It's going to happen, and especially when you're getting started with this run, you're going to be a little bit sloppier, and it's going to take some practice, and so you're going to lose some experience off the front end. But once you get it down, you should be able to get the mobs to stay decently stacked, and you should be able to keep them, taking damage at all times. If you want to, you could also just use rank 1 Blizzard or rank 1 Consecrate when you feel like they aren't stacked. And then by using rank 1 Consecrate, you're not burning a ton of mana, but you are, getting them re-engaged, and you're not worrying about keeping the mobs through every single tick of Consecrate. It is important, though, to make sure that you let them come around the corner as much as you can so you don't get hit. But you also want to make sure that you are far enough away from them so that they don't hit you. They can potentially hit you around the side of the wall. So if you wait for them to get all the way around the wall before you actually start dropping things, what you're going to find is that you will get hit by the mobs as they come around the side. So make sure that you're not letting the mobs get too many free hits off on you just standing there too close to them, and make sure that you get around the side so that they hit you from the back, not the front. If you do get dazed at any point, I recommend just trying to jump off immediately. Don't worry about letting them sit through the rest of the Consecrate. You got dazed and you're probably just going to get killed if you just sit in that daze. So I'd recommend just trying to get off to the side as quickly as you can and just live to see another day. You can take a lot of damage very quickly from leeway if the mobs are around the side of the pillar. So just try to make sure that you keep them away from you. But eventually, guys, you get all the mobs down. You will see in just a second that I just finished off this technician just, normally. But you're going to see that we get 77,000 experience. Now, there were, I don't know, I probably missed out on 5,000-ish experience from the run, just from mobs resetting their health. But we did pretty well. So 21 minutes, 77,000 experience. It's roughly about 210,000 experience per hour. I am also level 66 though, so that's about 1.5 times more experience if you're around level 62, which is where I get around the 300,000 experience per hour potential. It's a difficult pool, and it is going to take you guys some practice, but you can see there how it is done. There's definitely some ways that I can clean up the run too, and I'm going to try to be, practicing those and thinking through those as well. But it is a very fun pool and can net you some pretty serious gains on your Paladin.